You're listening to the Podcast Engineering Show, session number 3. Hit it, guys. Yeah, those are my guys, right? Like, I have guys here in the studio ready to just jam on command. Well, welcome everybody to the show. I am Chris Curran. I'm happy you're here. Every week on this show, we bring you podcast production techniques on a silver platter. We get down and dirty talking shop with podcast producers, engineers, and other specialists. I have a background in audio engineering in the music business, and since entering the world of podcasting about 4 years ago, I've noticed a pretty huge lack of audio skills in podcasting, and that's where this show can help. So if you implement the best of what you hear on this show, your podcast will sound a lot better, and you'll spend a lot less time producing them. And, of course, as always, I have Barry, the maintenance guy, here in studio with me. Barry, you ready for a great show here?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, he's ready. And this show is brought to you by my two companies, or two of my companies, I guess. Podcast Engineering School. That's right, I'm starting a school, online training for you where you are right now. Maybe you're just a beginner. We can help you launch your podcast. We can teach you audio engineering skills to enhance your sound a lot, and we can even teach you everything you need to know to start a career as a podcast producer and engineer. Because there are jobs out there now. Amazon, Panoply, I've seen a lot of job postings lately. So go to the website, podcastengineeringschool.com, find out more. And the show is also brought to you by Fractal Recording. That's my production company, providing podcast production of the highest quality to companies, authors, and podcast networks. You know, there are people out there who they want to have a podcast show, but they don't want to record anything or edit anything or anything. And that's where Fractal Recording can help. And the website is fractalrecording.com. You can hear this show. You can listen and subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher and TuneIn Radio. And our website, podcastengineeringschool.com. So this is the show. The show supports the school, and everything's on the website, podcastengineeringschool.com. If you listen every week, I promise you a valuable education over time. You know, little by little, you can learn a lot of great skills. So today, we are honored to have Kate Astrakhan on our show. She is God's gift to podcasting. That's what she told me. Kate, right? She's laughing. She's like, I didn't know he was going to really say that. Anyway, she's awesome. Right? She's the owner of Audio Adrenaline Studio. She's been in radio since it was reel to reel, long time. She does voiceovers. So, Kate, welcome to the Podcast Engineering Show.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to have you because you have a lot of background in radio and audio, and you love audio. I can tell. You know what I mean?
I do love audio. I love all things sound. It stems from having Misophonia as a child. It's like
what?
I needed to edit out. Well, there's a thing called Misophonia, and it's this, like, if you eat a peach around me, I will want to murder you.
Oh.
So it's like a super sensitivity to sound, so I grew up wanting to, like, edit my world.
Oh. Now I know what you're saying, because my brother at the kitchen table, he'd always tell my dad, chew with your mouth closed.
Exactly.
Right? It's a real thing. I didn't know that. What is it called again?
It's a real thing. It's Misophonia.
All right. I'm going to write... You email me something. I'll forward it to my brother.
Okay.
Anyway,
I will totally do that.
You all know, if you're listening to this, I shouldn't say you all. You're supposed to speak to one listener, Kate. Isn't that the thing?
Oh, that's the rule. But, you know, since millions are going to be downloading this podcast, we're talking to the world.
And I have a problem because it's in the middle of the day, but I just turned the heat up to the daytime level, and I'm wearing a sweatshirt, and I just drank a Starbucks. So now
you're sweating.
Oh my God, I'm so hot. I'm gonna have to take off my sweatshirt. But you know, we start with the speed round because I don't prefer to start episodes. So tell us why. Tell us about yourself. Why did you start your company?
Nobody wants to know that.
My God. So anyway, we go through it quick. So I want to know from you, Kate, tell us about the shows that you produce and engineer. Now, by the way, I will say your company does production for a lot of podcast shows, so we don't have time for you to tell me about all of them right now, but just tell me about your show. Tell me about the shows that you produce for yourself.
Okay. There's only one that I do myself, and it's called Make Your Bed Podcast, Better Living Through Podcast. And it's the anti-drug to better living, and it's less than 10-minute sound bites of what you can do to make your life better on a daily basis. And I do 7-day challenges because anybody can do anything for 7 days. And it's just ridiculous. And the title came because if you make your bed, there was this huge study done that people who make their beds are happier and more successful and they're homeowners, and people who don't make their beds are miserable.
Really?
And I was like, well, God, yeah, it's a thing. Go listen to the very first show.
I'm going to.
And my mom used to tell me to make my bed. And when I was a kid, I made my bed. And then when I went to college, I stopped. And it does make a difference to make your bed in the morning. It's crazy. So the podcast is Make Your Bed Podcast.
That's so cool. And where can people find it?
Actually at audioadrenalinestudio.com on the podcast page. And you can find it on Stitcher and iTunes and SoundCloud and everywhere else.
Okay, cool.
It just made new and noteworthy. It was crazy.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
So audioadrenalinestudio.com. That's what you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So, and by the way, we'll have the link to that in the show notes. You can go there. You can check out the show page. All right. So let's talk about workflow. You're getting ready to record one of your own personal podcasts. Take me through quickly just the workflow from recording to mixing to editing and mastering just before you upload it as a finished piece.
It's super simple. I have the most basic podcast package for recording sound on the planet. It's just ridiculous. I use Behringer equipment. So I've got a baby board, a Xenix 302 USB baby board, Behringer C1 mic on a boom, and I just plug in and turn into an idiot in front of the microphone.
Oh, jeez.
Because I am. You get me in front of a microphone and I just turn into a fool.
Really?
I do. I'm the same way if you put me in front of a video camera. I just turn into an idiot. I don't know what happens. It's a thing. And I own that about myself now because I'm just a fool.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah. And it's hilarious because a couple of engineers that work for me, if they're ever around while I'm recording anything, they make faces at me, trying to get me to be more stupid. But, I mean, I just sit down, I record it. I'm usually a one-take Kate.
Okay.
And it's just so simple. I record everything into Adobe Audition. That's the gold standard around here, that and Pro Tools. But I like Audition. That's what I came up on, was the Adobe Creative Suite. And edit whatever little things I have to edit, throw my music in, upload it to Libsyn, and let it go.
Wow. All right, so that's your workflow. And you mentioned some of the hardware. Let's step through that hardware once again. You have a lot of Behringer gear, you said, right?
Yeah, I'm a Behringer gal.
Okay.
All of our boards downstairs are Behringers. And for just podcast, and this is what I send out to clients too. The Behringer, it's a very small board, 2-track, Xenix 302 USB. And you can plug an XLR mic into it. The USB plugs right into your computer. Audition picks it right up. It's plug and play.
Oh, so the mixer itself is a USB connection to the computer. Ah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Which makes it super simple for people who don't know anything about audio, and they're not going to go out and invest in a huge board with all of the buttons and knobs and lights that they're just confused by.
Right. And microphone, what mic do you use?
I use a Behringer C1.
Okay, I'm writing. I take notes, so I'm writing stuff down, which is hard when you're hosting. When you're hosting a show, it's hard to take notes. But I guess I'll just
post-production.
I know. I have to listen back
out.
later. You mean I have to listen to this later?
Do you want me to edit it? Send the file over to me. We'll do it.
Oh, all right.
I'll handle that for you.
The C1, the Behringer C1. I'll have to take a look at that. I'm not familiar with that microphone. And then what kind of, you use Adobe Audition. What kind of computer do you have?
A Mac. All of them are Macs.
All Macs. Okay.
All Macs.
All right, cool. What do you feel what is your greatest strength in terms of production and engineering?
Detail editing. I go through, literally I love waveform, and I will dive into a waveform when I'm editing a podcast or any audio for that matter, especially if it's interview-based, and just clean the hell out of it. People come back with their recordings and say, this isn't what we said, but this sounds amazing.
Right.
Because all of their ums and ahs and lost trains of thoughts and sneezes and lip smacking. I hate that lip smacking sound.
Yeah. I know.
So.
But you know what's tough is when someone, like, between sentences, they'll go like this. Mm-hmm. Like, they'll swallow, And
Yeah.
you can take, if you remove the lip smack, it's hard to remove the rest. And sometimes people go like this too. They'll stop a sentence, and the next sentence they'll be like, and I don't know. I can't do it on command, but
On command,
they'll sort of like swallow as they're starting the first word of the next sentence. That's hard to edit out, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that is hard to edit out, but that's when clipping comes in handy because I'll grab a like sound from another part of the file and stick it in there.
Okay, like the beginning of a different word?
Yep.
Okay. Like if it's a P word,
If it's a plosive, I'll grab another plosive.
Right. Whatever similar letter starts the word. Yeah, yep. I've actually done that with S's. Like some people, like a recording, they were supposed to go exactly to a script, and they didn't. And like one word, they said it as singular, but it should be plural. So you can actually grab an
S and stick it on the end.
Grab an S and stick it on the back of the word.
Yep.
That's tricky though, because it just, I mean, you and I, we could sit there for 10 minutes and get it right, but it's not easy actually.
No.
So
no, this is why people who do podcasts should never DIY it.
Right. Totally.
Unless you know what you're doing.
Right. So let's get into your background. So Kate, tell me why you started.
Tell me why you started. Because I wanted to make a living. I like two things: food and a roof.
That's it.
That's why I started a business.
Okay. So
and I'm completely unemployable. So
So you got into radio first. Was that the first step?
Yeah. Well, kind of. It was an accident. It was a complete accident.
Huh.
I didn't get into radio first. I got into voiceover work first.
Got it.
Yeah, and then that led to some ads. That led to Greyhound, and then that led to radio.
Oh, the Greyhound one. You told me off the air. Which commercial did you do?
This is back in the early 80s. I was just coming out of high school, and there's a jingle. Go Greyhound and leave the driving to us. A woman is singing that.
Right.
That's me.
Ah.
Yeah.
Come on, sing it, Kate.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I've had the flu.
Oh.
All right. Are you ready?
Go.
Go Greyhound and leave the driving to us.
Right. Who hasn't heard that? I remember that. I don't know. But I guess
that's
some of our listeners probably were born around that time.
Probably. Yeah. Most of the people that work for me were born like when I did that. I'm like, I've been working longer than you are old.
Right. So when did you take the voiceover and radio experience? When did you get into podcasting?
Actually, the podcasting arm of our company is relatively new. It's only about 3 years old.
Okay.
And because what we do primarily here is live records for radio stations.
Okay.
And then feed those out. But podcasting is really becoming the wave of the future, at the risk of sounding like Howard Hughes. Wave of the future, wave of the future. I can't not do that.
Right.
And once, you saw the writing on the wall that says podcasting is going to do to radio what internet news did to newspapers.
Right.
In fairly short order, I decided to get on the bandwagon and start producing podcasts.
Right, and even in the early days, I mean, I think back in like podcasting basically started in 2004, but in 2005, 2006, like I think a lot of radio stations and shows, NPR style shows, started putting all their stuff out as podcasts, just as an archive, kind of.
Yep.
And
it started as an archival process, and once they realized that they could gain a wider audience, they started doing it as podcasting.
Right, and then guys like me in their boxer shorts in their basement started, thinking, hey, I'm going to host a show.
Yeah, Mark Marone in his garage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Mark.
Yeah. And now he's huge.
Yeah, he interviewed the president, yep.
Yeah,
so you said
the president.
Downstairs, right now you're upstairs in your
Right now I'm upstairs.
Home or office.
In my house.
In your house. So what is downstairs?
Yeah. Downstairs is a full studio with ISDN codec, feeds out to 3 towers. Oh, God. More boards than I can count. 2 engineers that I keep chained to the post.
Bring them water every now and then.
Occasionally, I'll throw them some bread. an ISO booth, because we also do ACX audiobook narration.
Okay.
And sometimes we have hosts with their guests in studio, so we have the table with the mics set up there. So it's a mini radio station for all intents and purposes. I don't have a tower here. I feed out to other towers.
Got it. Okay. So you mentioned also before we went on air that you do not use plugins.
No.
You just don't.
No.
So you don't compress or EQ anything that's recorded.
What we do, but it's not, I think we have a different definition of plugins.
Oh.
When we work with Audition, all of those effects, those things that are in the effects rack.
Right.
The amplitude, the compression, the delay, echo, filter, EQ,
right.
modulation, noise reduction, reverb, all that kind of stuff. Those we use, yeah. But as far as plugins like using, what do they call that thing? It's just crap. Levelator and those other downloadable off the web audio production things.
Okay.
We don't use those.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because I was talking about plugins like, for instance, Waves makes a lot of plugins. There's a lot of people that make plugins. In fact, I want to get a plugin expert on this show because apparently there's different kinds of plugins and all this.
Well, Pro Tools and Audition come with everything you could possibly ever want to master a file.
Right, yeah, so they kind of have some of the plugins already in there.
Yeah.
Which is what I for stereo editing, I use SoundForge Pro. And when I got that, it came with some isotope mastering plugins. So it's a multi-band compressor and a limiter and an imager and whatever else.
Yeah.
So I use that. And then I bought this other plugin just recently called Vocal Rider, which actually will sort of automatically ride the fader. You can give it a range in which to ride, and then you give it a target of how loud you want it to be, and it'll ride the fader automatically. And I use it. That's
awesome. Yeah.
It's cool. I use it slightly because if you use it too much, it just doesn't sound right. But
yeah, I use that mainly with like a match volume settings, especially if I'm working to the podcast standard right now they're working towards is -16 LUFS. So you can drag a file in Audition down just into the match volume settings, and it'll analyze it and tell you where you are. Most files will come in at like -20, which is way too soft.
Right.
And you just run the match volume setting on it to wherever you want to put it, and that's kind of the same thing. It rides the level and evens it all out.
Yeah, so just for the people, just for you listening, the LUFS standard is a new it's not that new actually. It's a loudness.
No, it's not. It's several years old.
Right.
People are just getting hip to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a loudness standard, which is meant to sort of keep all shows and all audio basically on the same loudness level, because having one that's really loud and having one that's soft is annoying.
Yeah, well, they did that on television too, where all of the commercials had to be broadcast at the same level.
Right, because
screaming people, you have to buy our cars from here right now. Stop screaming at me.
Right, and every time commercials would come on, you'd have to actually grab the remote and turn down the volume.
Exactly.
And then when the show came back on, you'd have to turn the volume back up.
Right. So the podcast industry, or the broadcast industry more accurately, is just doing a good job in, proactively saying, no, everybody has to be putting out their sound at the same level.
Right.
So that's cool.
It's handy. So now let's get into the workflow in a little more detail. So recording, when you record directly into Audition, I assume you record the different voices on different tracks.
Yes.
Okay. And what kind of resolution do you record at?
That's a really good question.
Well, I'm sure it's WAV file, but
it's absolutely a WAV file,
right.
And it's always in stereo.
Right.
But because if we're working downstairs from the radio, it's coming over ISDN, so we don't have that. But if it's a podcast, if it's just me recording into podcast, it's just a setting on my board. The gain is set at 3 and the mic is set at 2.
Right.
Unity gain's at 0, and I'm recording at about -5.
Right. So the resolution I'm talking about is like in Adobe Audition, you can tell it to record at 16-bit 44:1, or you can do 24-bit.
Oh yeah, 40. Yeah, no, yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always 44.1 and 16.
Okay. Right. Standard
I usually don't
wave.
take the bit. I usually don't take the bit depth any more than 16, and 44.1 is just the standard across the board. So.
Right. Except for video, I think. I think video, the standard's 48.
It is 48, but we don't do a whole lot of video.
Right. See, I don't do video. I just do audio, but I do 48K, and I actually record a 24-bit as well. It makes the files bigger, but it's a higher resolution, and the 24-bit seems to really give it more depth, like more dynamic range. Like it actually makes a difference to me. So
do you think you're getting a richer sound with the 24?
Yeah, slightly. I mean, look, we're splitting hairs here, right? I mean,
yeah, kind of.
both are really good. And a lot of people just do 16, 44.1 just to keep the file size down. But I'm just crazy. I like to, I mean, if I have the option to go 24-bit, I'll just do it.
You'll go the 24.
Yeah.
And everything gets converted to MP3 anyway, so it all gets squished beyond original recognition anyhow.
Exactly. So yeah, so that's what I was saying in a previous episode. The only reason you want to record, because in session number, see, I said episode. I'm trying to say.
It's okay to say episode.
I'm trying to say session here, though. These are sessions.
Okay.
Recording sessions. No.
Fine.
And I'm not copying Pat Flynn either. Anyway, in session number 1, our guests Mary and Blake Larson, they record actually into GarageBand at an MP3 quality. I think it's 256K MP3. And their show sounds pretty good. Yeah, their voices sound good. So we were talking about then that, he said, should I be recording as a WAV or MP3? And I said WAV only because, like you just said, everything ends up ultimately as an MP3 file.
Right. But if you're recording into an MP3, you're still losing a lot of that resolution that you would normally capture in a WAV. Right.
And the resolution is important when you're going to be applying these effects and compressors and EQs. Mm-hmm. Like when you use an EQ on a WAV file, it just comes out a lot cleaner and richer.
Yeah. Crispier.
Yeah, just more smooth and clear. In fact, I want to do this test. I want to actually run some audio, like, I don't know what, through a signal chain, and I'm just going to do it like 100 times and then show how the sound is degraded from a certain process.
Yeah. I really love it when people do noise reduction on a file and they go a little too far and suddenly everybody sounds like they're underwater.
Right? You got to be careful with that.
It's like that background air white noise was okay.
Right?
Leave it alone.
Yeah, not so bad.
Not so bad.
Barry, do you use noise reduction?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He does. Yeah, he does. Okay.
Poor Barry, we've been ignoring him.
Barry's great. He just hangs out with me. So editing, I know you said you cut out all the lip smacks and everything when you're editing. But what is your general philosophy of editing?
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Okay.
If it's just basic, normal speech patterns, leave it alone. You don't need to sound like you never make a mistake ever in life and you always know exactly what you're saying at all times, because nobody does.
That's so true. And these days, the way of the world is that everybody wants everything to be natural, to be transparent. Just be yourself, be normal yourself, and not use this big radio voice, which sometimes
God, the voice of the gods.
But I sometimes stray toward that. I don't know. Do I sound like a radio voice? On this episode?
You don't sound like a radio voice, but you have a natural DJ-style voice. And it's funny because people get what I call mic fright. They get in front of a microphone. Like I said, I turn into an idiot. But some people get in front of a microphone and they turn into frickin' Shakespeare and become so stiff and so formal and so, I don't know, you just want to smack them and go, will you just like drink a glass of wine or smoke a joint or something and relax?
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to be completely perfect. You don't want to be completely polished. I mean, not even the most professional long-term audio person is completely professional. People on NPR screw up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what kind of monitors do you use to listen while you're mixing and editing? Or do you use headphones or earbuds? What do you use?
Headphones primarily. We've got a whole bunch of Behringer headphones. I feel like a pitchman for Behringer.
Right?
But that's the equipment that I know best. It's what I grew up with.
Right.
I really like their quality. But we have some Bose speakers for the larger monitors when we're downstairs.
Okay.
Working in the big studio, we've got some Bose.
Got it.
Down there.
Good. Okay, and then the mastering process, when you kind of mixed everything and you kind of edit it down, the last step of mastering, do you use compressors and limiting in that process?
Yeah, I do, actually. We take everything down to -16 LUFS, and then we hard limit it to -5. So we have this nice little rectangle of sound.
Right.
That's even all the way across the board.
Okay, and that's all in Adobe Audition?
All of it.
Okay.
Unless you're Chad and you're in Pro Tools.
Oh, okay. So do you just use the limiter, or do you use a compressor as well?
I just use, honestly, with the podcasts, I found that just using the limiter is fine.
Got it. Okay. And what are some ways, like when your guest on a podcast doesn't sound too good, or maybe, even for one of your clients, maybe they record something and, one of the voices sounds good, the other voices doesn't sound good. How do you correct that?
It really depends on the nature of the problem. If there's an echo, there's nothing you can do about that. You can't remove an echo.
Right.
It's like trying to unbake a cake. If you're getting the famous Skype dropout where it sounds like it's and then they get the word again.
Yeah.
That's just some detail editing, honestly. And a lot of our stuff, it doesn't rely on EQing or manipulating the file. It really is just detail editing, because you can cut huge segments of that out and put the word back together. So we spend a lot of time just detail editing, hand editing a file when there's a problem with it. Now, if you have white noise in the background, or, a dog is barking, of course, you'll just take those out. You can use the noise reduction and take out the white noise. I mean, hopefully the file is recorded in such a way that the tracks are separate. The host has one track and the guest has the other track.
Right.
In the unfortunate event where that isn't the case, you just do the best you can.
Right. Like if they're on one track, two voices on one track, and one voice sounds not great, right? It's difficult. It's
really difficult. You can't do a whole lot of manipulation on the one to correct it without distorting the one that isn't as bad.
Right. So what advice do you give to your guests to sound better? Do you sound check every guest when you get them on Skype or on the phone? Do you?
Yeah. When we're doing, and if I'm recording a guest, I won't use the baby setup that I have when I'm just recording solo.
Okay.
We'll run them in through the ISDN line, so they'll call in.
I see.
And an ISDN is a dedicated line that gives broadcast quality recordings. But not everybody has that. It's extremely expensive to buy and set up, and basic podcasters aren't going to use that.
Right.
Alternatively, you want to make sure that you have a really stable internet connection if you're using Skype, or you want to use Zencaster. Alternatively, if the thing you're using here, which is my first experience with this, the Source Connect.
Right.
This is a cool interface for recording guests.
Yeah. Well, it actually has a recording function, but I just use it as to connect.
Okay. But it seems like a really stable platform to use.
It's good. And I was going to ask you, because the guys who make Source Connect now, which is how we're connected, because I don't prefer Skype, they make something called Source Elements, which is like this really high-end voiceover at a distance. They can even sync to video over, like, from continents away, and it's anyway. So they can record voiceovers really at a distance at the highest quality, and then it records on the person's local computer, and then it sends the WAV file through the internet and syncs it up right inside their DAW.
That's awesome.
It's like $10,000 or $12,000, but it is awesome.
Yeah, but if that's the business you're in, that's a good investment to make.
Yeah. So this Source Connect now is just like a spin-off from that. This is like the little free. Well, right now it's in beta. It's free.
I see that it's in beta here.
How long? Detail editing is something you do a lot of. How long does it take you to do detail editing on an episode?
Oh, gosh, it depends on how heinous the file is. But typically, a 1-hour file takes 2 hours to edit.
Right? So you actually listen through the whole thing and go
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, one thing I do is when I record, when I'm actually on the call when my clients are recording. So I can actually make notes while it's recording. So most times I don't have to go back and actually listen to every second because I already listened to it. So
Yeah. So you know where those errors are that you need to cut.
Right.
Yep.
And what are some ways you've sped up your process? Like, have you gotten faster producing episodes?
Oh yeah, way faster. I mean, you look ahead. I can identify my voice by my waveform. I can identify all my clients by their waveform.
Oh,
so I know what their breath looks like. I know what their ums look like. I know what their smacks look like. So I mean, I work 5 minutes ahead in the thing, just whacking things out while it's playing, catching up with me. So yeah, we're super fast doing that.
That's so funny. We might have to give you a little test there, show you pictures of different wave files.
That would be great. I'd be like, oh, that's Robin. Recognize that tinny voice anywhere.
There you go. Got to add some low end there. So what's what's the most challenging thing to you about EQ and compression?
Oh, avoiding distortion and not taking too much out of the lower register. And the different qualities. I mean, I'm speaking not so much as talking about the show that is my show that I produce and host, but dealing with clients that I talk to or that I deal with. Their files are various degrees of quality and heinousness.
Right.
For example, I have a couple of clients who are digital nomads, and they have a travel podcast. And Eric was in, I think, Budapest. No, AJ was in Budapest, and Eric was in Brazil.
Huh.
So the quality of their recordings comes through just sometimes really great and sometimes just horrible.
Right.
So the challenge is getting everybody to sound great at the same time, and that means different things at different times for different files. So there's no one set process that I can apply across the board. So it's a matter of tweaking everybody's file to their individual needs and then going from there. I wish there was this wonderful magic plugin that could just standardize all of it.
Right.
And just magically pick out, okay, this needs to come up, this has too much bass, this breath needs to go away. But there just is no such thing.
I know. I've thought of that plugin as well.
Yeah.
Do you use gates or expanders at all?
No.
Yeah, neither do I. Not in podcasting.
Not in podcasting. I mean, if you're doing music, yeah.
That's not true. I do use an expander, but it's not like a gate. I keep the threshold really low, and I only drop, like when they're not talking, it only drops at like 10 dB. It doesn't drop at like 50 dB. So it's more like if someone's headphones are feeding back a little, or if there is like some sort of noise in the background that the noise reduction won't completely eliminate, I'll just put a little expander on it.
And take it out.
And it just it brings it down so you can't really hear it. But of course, the danger is, and this has happened, where when someone's starting a sentence in their breath, like, and then they're starting, it won't catch the breath. Like halfway through the breath, the expander will release, and it'll be yeah.
And then you get that funky clicky sound.
Yeah, slightly, but it sounds like a really weird breath. Like it's very unnatural, and that's exactly what you're not trying to do. You're trying to make it sound more natural, not less natural.
Not less natural. Yeah, exactly.
How about de-essers?
If there's a lot of background white noise, I'll de-ess something.
Oh, really?
But yeah, it works really well with, for example, I have one person who really likes to record with her USB microphone plugged directly into the computer.
Right.
So it picks up the 60 megahertz hum of the electrical cable. Okay. And it picks up the fan. The de-esser, believe it or not, does a really great job of suppressing that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that was a complete accident. It was actually Chad, one of our engineers, that discovered that. It's like, just run the de-esser on it. You'll be amazed at what happens. I'm like, no, that's not going to work. And it did.
But it must mess with her voice a lot.
It doesn't. It doesn't. That's like a quick and dirty secret that we use around here.
You know what? I'd be interested to know the settings that you're using to get that effect, because if it's not touching the voice at all, I don't understand how that can happen.
Let me see if I can.
Yeah, maybe later you can send it if you can open it up and, the threshold and the attack and release and whatever.
Yeah. I will do that.
Yeah.
I will email that to you.
Yeah, that'd be cool, because I've never heard of a de-esser being used that way. I mean, the standard way of using a de-esser is it's a de-esser. It gets rid of S's. Like when someone's S's are, sometimes you'll hear a voice and just the S's and the T's just literally rips the top of your head off. They're so sharp and crazy. And the de-esser will
I want to de-ess Garrison Keillor all the time.
Okay, I don't know him.
Ever heard the show Prairie Home Companion?
Oh, I've heard that. Yeah.
He's the host of Prairie Home Companion, and as he's aged, he whistles his S's now.
That's funny.
Just give me these files and I will S them all over the place.
For free, I'll do it.
For free, I'll just do it. But if you think about the functionality of a de-esser, and you're absolutely right that it calms down those hard S's and T's and those other sibilant sounds.
Sibilant.
Is it sibilant or sibilant? We argue about this.
Sibilant.
Sibilant?
Yep.
I'm never going to say it like that.
That's okay.
Well,
we know what you mean.
Whatever.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's that thing. The nature of white noise is S.
Okay.
And I think that's why de-essing works on white noise.
But the thing is, the white noise would be very low. The white noise is like at minus 50, let's say. And the voice comes up to whatever, minus 10, minus 5. So the de-esser works from top down. If you bring the threshold down to minus 50, it's going to just destroy everything above that. It's going to de-ess the crap out of it. Like
I'll send you Chad's settings for this.
Yeah. This is great. Oh man.
It's totally cool.
I love this. See, that's the cool thing about audio is like, it's like anything in life. There's tools, there's theory, there's best practices, and then guess what? Then you get to do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah. Then you get to do what works for the moment. And like I said, I mean, there's so many different ways that files come in that you never know what's going to work from one file to the next because there's no standard. Well, there is a standard. That's wrong to say that. I mean, there are things that you do to correct certain specific problems, but not knowing what problem a file is going to have, you can't apply one solution to everybody.
Exactly. So Barry, are you liking this episode so far?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. That's cool. You agree with everything Kate is saying?
190%.
Oh, 190%. I love that clip. It's just
190%.
It's hard.
That's very cool.
It's hard to come up with questions to ask them where that answer makes sense. Anyway, that's Barry.
I like Barry.
Barry's really cool. So I know with the de-esser, you said that was one of your tricks, and I know we've talked about a lot of little things, but are there any other little funny little tricky things? It's always weird being put on the spot, but
have a glass of wine before you record anything.
Oh, that's an engineering tip.
Yeah, that's an engineer. Don't have a glass of wine before you edit anything.
Oh,
but if you.
Oh, that's funny.
You're like, oh, no, that's fine. No, I actually have one client who won't record anything unless she's had a glass of wine, and thank God, because otherwise she's like J. Edgar Hoover. She sounds like Ben Stein.
Oh.
If she doesn't have a glass of wine.
Okay. Wow.
So, but tips and tricks, make sure you have, I mean, if nothing else, when you're recording, make sure that you have an interface between your microphone and the computer. If it's a little baby board, that's perfect, but don't ever plug your microphone right into your computer.
Oh, you're not a big fan of the USBs?
Not at all.
Because I'll tell you what, a lot of people use the
Blue Yeti?
Well, that and the Audio-Technica 2100. That's the most popular one these days.
Not a fan, because you're still getting all of that internal computer noise. It's still getting into the file.
Right? Yeah, I haven't. I have to say, some of my new clients are using the Blue Yeti, and yeah, I don't hear too much of that, thankfully.
Okay.
So, yeah, but if I did, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
That'd be annoying.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and avoid headset mics. And I'm being a complete hypocrite right now because I'm on a headset mic.
Well, but you're upstairs.
I am upstairs. I'm not downstairs in the ISO.
Yeah, you're not in the studio with the big rig.
I'm not.
You're a guest on a show. See, guests are different. Guests can do almost anything.
That's true. I should be a guest more often in places.
There you go.
This is actually my first podcast interview.
Really?
Where I've been a guest. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Are you going to Podcast Movement in July?
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'm debating whether or not I want to go back to Belize or go to Podcast Movement.
Oh, all right. That's that kind of choice. Yeah.
It's that kind of choice. Because, I mean, with me taking over the podcast end of the business and I'm leaving Chad to the radio end of the business, I can do this from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So why not do it?
You might actually move there.
Well, I'll tell you, if Hillary or Donald get in, yeah.
Oh. Right? Yeah. Oh, man.
Not to get political, but I'm just saying.
Well, either way, Podcast Movement is awesome. And
Podcast Movement is awesome. I went last time, and
Yeah.
it was fantastic.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the big party in our podcasting world.
Yeah, it's in Chicago this year, right?
Yep.
Okay.
July 6th to the 8th. I wish I had like a little... I have to talk to those guys, get like a little promo code so I can actually promote it on this show and people can sign up with a promo code and get like, whatever, 10% off or something. That'd be cool.
That would be cool. I think they do affiliate stuff like that.
Yeah, I think
promo
so.
Codes and what have you.
Right?
Although I haven't seen anywhere else that you can sign up for it except their site.
Well, right, but you just put in a promo code and that links you.
Yeah, and that gives you the
discount.
The bonus.
And
yeah.
it gives the affiliate whatever commission they're going to get.
Yeah.
So this has been awesome.
Cool.
Thank you, Kate, for being on the show. I mean, God's gift to podcasting.
I cannot believe you actually said that. That was hilarious.
Your website is audioadrenalinestudio.com, and I'm gonna have links to your stuff on there. And your show is called Make Your Bed.
Make Your Bed.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have links to everything on the show notes page. Kate, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been fun. And now I have to... See, I hit the wrong button on my soundboard, and it just... Now all my sounds are gone. All right, here we go.
Did you just completely screw this up?
No, the listeners are like, what the heck is going on?
What?
So thanks for listening. We put out a show every week. We really try hard to get people as guests who really bring a lot of good audio knowledge to you. And I think today was a great example of a great show because, it's not like you're going to get a golden nugget tip that's going to change your life, but it's just over time, hearing all these little tricks and tips and little things you can tweak, that really helps. So our website, again, is podcastengineeringschool.com. You can find the show there. I think there's a link on top. It says our podcast show. And we also offer webinars and stuff too. And I'm planning on doing a hands-on workshop right around Podcast Movement for EQ and compression. That's right. So people can attend that workshop and twist knobs and really get to learn how to use EQ and compression. So thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time. Here's our outro song, Distance Between 2 Points. See y'all next time. Until then, sound great.